Hello, friends. Welcome back. Man, it's been a little bit, huh? We had a good little break. First things first, I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays if you celebrate anything else. I am glad to be back. I try to keep the mindset of not worrying so hard if something like the holidays comes up and I'm not putting out an episode every week. I try to focus on, quality over quantity and making sure I'm putting something out that I would enjoy to listen to. So I apologize if anyone was anticipating an episode during these days. I hope the break wasn't too long for you, and I look forward to everything else moving forward. Look forward to moving forward. Man, I'm so good with words. Regardless, this is the first episode of 2025. And we have a guest, guys. We broke the fucking curse. My God. And I should probably introduce this person, huh? Most of you don't know him, but his name is Sean Basham, and he is an amazing human being. He is the most selfless person I have ever met. He is a fantastic conversationalist, a great dad, a phenomenal photographer. I could go on and on and on. I've known him for years now, and they have gone by in a flash. We used to work together, and during those years, we just could not stop yapping to each other. And I always feel very grateful now that we have both left that company and don't work there anymore. Whenever he gives me a couple hours of his day, it's just the best. I love chatting with him. I already knew I was going to have him on when I started this podcast. We actually had him on a couple times on the previous podcast I ran. So the dude's just awesome. If you know him, you're a lucky person. If you don't, I hope you one day get to cross paths with him. We kind of went into this a little topic blind. We didn't have anything really planned out, and that was kind of just because I had faith in our ability to roll with the punches and figure it out. And we kind of ended up focusing the episode on learning, which ended up being the title of the podcast. We go into the differences of like IQ and knowledgeability and why learning recreationally is so fun. Once you get that bug that bites you, it's just fucking awesome. And I really think that can go for anyone if they go in with the right mindset. And so, yeah, we kind of picked that apart a little bit, and I hope we have a digestible conversation for you guys. I loved it. I had a fantastic time, as I always do with him. I will say real quick, a little bit of a warning. There are some cuts in the conversation. Sean brought his kiddo along, and he needed dad's assistance every so often. So we would take a brief pause, which I obviously would edit out. But just wanted to let you guys know that that's in there. But without further ado, welcome to 2025. I look forward to everything that's to come with you guys. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I'm optimistic about it, and I'm going to keep putting my best foot forward in hopes that I can make some awesome stuff for you guys this year. This is episode 4 on learning with Sean Basham. You are listening to Unserious University. I am your host, Tub. Let's get into it. Love you guys. Peace out. Bye. I don't have a topic in mind. I've tried to be better about it, but I don't know if you have anything.
I don't. So I don't either. But like, I tell you what, I woke up at 5 this morning just because I'm on my day shift schedule now. Mm-hmm. And so like, I literally was like laying awake in bed, just like, we could talk about, and I was just like, I don't know, that could be, I kind of want to just, catch up and yeah, fucking, we'll roll with the punches, man. That's honestly one of my favorite parts about conversations with you is just how we can,
the flow.
We can go down a rabbit hole so deep.
Oh God, I know.
And end on the fabric of the universe, not figuratively.
Yeah. I know. I was telling Rachel the other day that like I have not had as many conversations as I'd like to that like depth and scale. And I was like, you have no idea. I used to talk to Sean about this shit all the time.
Hours.
Yeah. I remember like vividly one conversation we had when we stayed so late after work. It's just sitting out in
Yes,
front.
that's literally what
the fucking warehouse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and,
the conversation I'm thinking about.
Yeah, and we just talked about like how like people can't look into the void, like they can't handle reality for what it is, 100%. And so they put whatever beautiful picture over it.
That's literally the conversation I was thinking about. That one was good. That one, God, yeah, we were out there. God, it had to have been like what, 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours?
Oh yeah, it was dark.
Like that. Yeah, it was, and it was not wintertime. We were like,
no, yeah, yeah. 100%.
No, that was a good one. I enjoyed that a lot. No, same, dude. It's funny because U.S. Tool, and yeah, I'm gonna name drop.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
who fucking cares?
Yeah,
that job was hellish, and that's being nice.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I compare coworkers because I had some of the best coworkers of my entire life working there.
Mm-hmm.
You are like I compare people like crazy,
mm-hmm.
which is not. And okay, that sounds.
Well, I mean, that's human nature.
Yeah, I was like, that sounds bad when I say it that way, but I just mean like, I look at current and like past coworkers, and I'm like, I couldn't have conversations like that with you.
Yeah, dude, 100%.
And it makes the it's just funny. You don't like you don't realize that you're in those times. Sorry, this is kind of cliche, but until you're out of them, and I'm like, oh God, you guys, everybody there really did make it like bearable.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it was
not everybody.
It was
a select few.
It was like the camaraderie you get when everyone's suffering in the trenches together, and you're all doing 2 to 3 people's worth of work as one individual, and there's a lot of bonding going on, and then also just like, I don't know, working a 10-hour shift with someone in the same space, like for years, like you spend as much time with them as you do family.
Yeah, you're bound to bond.
Yeah,
especially in a shared suffering situation. Because that's the other thing too, is like I don't think any of my jobs after that I have been that not labor intensive. Just like I didn't like I'm not suffering.
Yeah, your plate isn't that full.
Yeah, I'm just like going to work and doing my thing, and then I'm going home.
Right. I know. I was explaining to God, I think it might have been like one of my brothers or one of the youngins in my family that like as life goes on and you get older, you do less at work and get paid more.
100%.
And the only time that that changes is when you avidly seek out something that would would reverse those roles.
Yes, yeah.
And like it feels criminal.
No, it really does. It
Immoral.
really does. And well, you see that when you come into the workforce, you're like, God, this guy doesn't do shit, and he makes so much more money than I do.
Mm-hmm.
How is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get older, and you're like, all right,
it just wasn't my turn.
Yeah. All right, but it's all perspective.
Yeah,
it's like when you try to like talk to, like teenagers or like young kids about something, and they're like, no, that's not true. You would never. You don't know that, or you don't know what I'm going through. You don't know how I'm feeling right now, or anything like that. It's just they don't have perspective. You know? Which isn't a bad like you don't get it until you get it.
Yeah, and like I know that there's the old cliche statement about how like maturity does not correlate, or should I say there's no causation between maturity and age.
Oh, very much not. Yeah.
There's correlation, but anyone with real life experience can tell you that there are definitely outliers in a lot of them.
100%.
And I just like, I don't know, I do see the appeal sometimes when I talk to people at like who hire other people, and you get certain young individuals that enter the hat and they want to be selected for certain roles, and you can just tell that they're still underbaked.
Yes,
like they still are missing levels of maturity that they just haven't gotten enough time to accrue.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
But you obviously do get the young people who just get it.
Yeah,
like it just life for good or bad reasons has forced them to learn the right lessons.
Right. Absolutely. No, 100%. Yeah, and I don't know that. Yeah, that's one of those things that that again, you don't know until you know.
Yeah.
You know? But no, like I'm speaking from experience there too. Is like, you know, there are a lot of things that happen in my life where, like, I'm a dad. You know, just that perspective right there. In my opinion, you know, you can read and like you can get advice and like that will probably help you before becoming a parent. Like having some just ground,
like foundational.
Yeah,
knowledge.
thank you. Yeah, foundation to kind of build off of. But
I'm gonna switch into shorts.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna watch him. No, yeah, like you can do all the reading and all the knowledge seeking you possibly can, but until you're actually in something that's gonna give you that experience, nothing's gonna properly prepare you. And that's not a knock against like going out and seeking knowledge because that's always a good thing. But it's just like, man, every situation is different for every person. So it's just like you have to go experience things before you're really gonna have a good foundation of like experience. God, that was so vague.
No. I know. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I think that brings up a good point that I would like to dissect with you.
Let's go.
And it pertains to like our time that we used to spend together at our previous job. And we had this is one of the things that my like to this day my life still is lacking in.
Yeah.
And I never got back since we stopped working together for the best of reasons.
Yeah.
Facts. And it's that was one of the most intensive learning phases of my life. We used to consume audiobooks and like YouTube videos and podcasts like more than we consumed food.
Absolutely.
At that job.
100%.
And I think in 2020 I think it was 2020. I had like over 20 or 25 books that I had listened to at the time, and all of them were like knowledge intensive nonfiction.
Yes.
And we were just having a ball. Like
dude, the note taking.
Yes, we had like
mid-aisle conversations of just like, dude, the chapter I just listened to.
Yeah, like I remember one of my favorite books that I listened to was the one on telomeres.
Yeah, dude, I literally
and it's like I have this like huge like base knowledge on the end caps of the DNA in your nucleus and how that correlates to age and the unraveling of them and how telomerase is the protein that maintains it. And it's like all these biomarkers that like have to do with biological age. And I'm like, oh, did you know that like Elizabeth Blackburn got the Nobel Peace Prize? Like this is the author of this book and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I just like, and it was so much easier, obviously, because we had like, we didn't really call it that at the time, but we had like our own little book club.
Yes.
That we just like,
oh God, that's a great way to put it. I definitely didn't think of it that way.
Yeah. And we would just like, cause I would like listen to a completely different book than you. And then sometimes we'd listen to the same one at the same time. Yeah. And then we'd like bounce it off each other, be like, oh, like you have to listen to Guns, Germs, and Steel.
Oh,
like it's just, dude, revolutionizing and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And then I remember like, we both took cracks at books that should never have been audiobooks. Like I remember you tried Nietzsche.
I did.
I was listening to Marcus Aurelius.
Dude, that was rough. That was hard to get through. Like literally I have never heard the word oh God, what no, now my brain's gonna fucking go blank on it. No. Whatever. He there was a word that was used in exorbitant amount in that book that I was just like, I don't think I've ever heard that in my entire life, but it's his favorite. He used it every other
sentence.
It'll come to me eventually. No, that it was still interesting. I honestly couldn't tell you a damn thing that happened. That I don't know. Was it? Which one was that? Oh God, it was like something Good and Evil. Like
yeah. I think maybe even if it's just like on Good and Evil,
it might be.
I can Google it real quick. And also for people listening, what we did at the time, because we did not have spare money nor care to have spare money to pay for Audible. We used Libby, which is like a library for audiobooks.
Yes.
We would literally you'd put in your library card and you would check them out through like actual public libraries, like
2 weeks.
Yeah, like
you had it for 2 weeks. It was fucking great.
And there were wait times on shit because people had them checked out.
Yeah,
somehow.
Yeah, I know. Can't have enough audiobooks. You Google that. I'm gonna go take care of a screaming child real quick.
Okay, yeah, we'll put a quick pause. Okay, so the book that you're thinking of is Beyond Good and Evil.
There it is. Yes.
By Nietzsche, and it is from 1886.
It's a bit of a dry one.
Yeah. It says, for people listening, it says, it's a critique of moral philosophy and argues that morality and truth are not universal. Nietzsche argues that biased concepts of morality have prevented philosophy from reaching the truth and from being honest about human nature. He also argues that all philosophers to date have been dogmatic, and their philosophy primarily reflects their own personal experiences, which is kind of a crazy dig to be like, I'm the first true philosopher.
Right.
Everyone before me, including Socrates, is just biased.
Yeah. Literally everything he thought was
and that's the thing though, like that's like the culture that the microculture that we had created, and with like other coworkers too, who I will refrain from naming upon request, that like we kind of created there together, where like we were all listening to different audiobooks and like bouncing what we've learned off of each other. Even like mid chapter, we'd pause it and like run over. Yeah. And just be like, holy fuck, did you know this?
Several times I remember that happening, where one of us would be in the middle of an aisle and one of us would stop and just be like, oh dude, you will not believe what I just listened to. Or like while we were on break, not playing Call of Duty, we would be talking about books.
And there's a quote that I had written down in my notes. I have a folder of all like of my favorite quotes I've ever heard. And this one's by like an essayist whose name is Ralph Waldo Emerson. But it says, I cannot remember the books I've read any more than the meals I have eaten. Even so, they have made me.
Ooh, that's so good. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And that I 100% identify with that.
Yeah. And I think that there is like a huge, and so the entire reason I even brought this topic up was because like we, on paper, if you looked at like some sort of like political campaigner who's like trying to target demographics, and you're trying to like, basically what you have to do is like, you're a professional stereotyper, and you just have to like figure out who lives where and what they do and what they're like and what they appeal to, and then appeal to them. If you looked at us at the time, we were just like two non-college educated dudes who worked in a warehouse. And the last thing that you would think is that like, you know, well, if Joe Biden really campaigned and sound knowledgeable on Nietzsche, he would like reach me. Like, it's just not something that would like ever you would ever think, because it just doesn't fit the mold.
Right.
But we like just all kind of like fell in love with learning, and I feel like even to this day, like the quote says, like we couldn't tell you like all the books that we read that year. Like I couldn't list all 20 something perfectly, and I couldn't give a very good, accurate summary of everything I learned in them. But like I really do believe that subconsciously all of that knowledge is still there and still like working behind the scenes on like basically who I am as a person and how I operate in the world. And like I don't know how that happened or why like we decided, outside of just like matching personalities.
I don't either. I don't remember what it was specifically that like, I feel like, I don't know. I'm going to give you a lot of credit here, because I feel like it was you that kind of started it, because I feel like it had to do with, and this is a vague remembrance, but I think it started with a sleep book. I could be wrong.
That sounds familiar.
I could be wrong. That might have just fallen into when we were doing this, but I feel like it started with a book on sleep because of I can't remember his name, but he was a sleep doctor that came on Joe Rogan, and he had it was a really interesting podcast.
Yeah, because it was basically like talking about how like we have sleep completely wrong and it's actually killing us. Not getting 7 hours minimum. Yes, I remember that. Oh my God, yes, I remember us and then another person talking about how like jarring that was to learn. Yeah, I think what like if I can remember the chain of events, I think I think it was a combination of a couple of things, because I remember that also being intertwined in it. But now that I recall, I remember having, and I think I talked about it a little bit on one of my previous episodes, but I remember having like a very like eye-opening experience working there, and realizing that like we had people who were triple my age making only a couple more bucks an hour than me, and I was like, I could die here if I don't do anything. And it really sparked a interest in money and personal finance.
Right.
And so I remember I started watching like a ton of YouTube videos on investing in stocks, because I had no idea how anything worked, and it was such a huge barrier of entry. So there was a bunch of knowledge I needed to accrue. And then I think I wanted, like, every time I watched a video on people giving advice, they were always like, you need to read books. And so I think the first one that I like really like pursued was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Which is such a great book.
And that like literally changed my life. I genuinely think that book like forever altered the direction in which I started handling my own money. And it's so funny now because he's such a kook. Like he's totally just strayed off the path.
I know.
But his prior knowledge still stands true. And then after like doing that, I discovered Libby, that app, and then I was just like diving into all the different genres and all this stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, you gotta download this, like blah blah blah.
Dude, it still is. Like, if you can't afford to buy audiobooks, because like they can get expensive after a while, like you know,
it's like $16 a month I think for Audible now, if you don't have like the student subscription.
Right. And then, but even still, I feel like you don't, like, there's still books that you still have to like buy on there too. Right or no? Am I wrong?
I've yet
literally
to run into
never
one.
Use Audible. Still,
I've had Audible now for probably a couple years, and my collection is huge. Huge is, I don't know. There are people who are bookworms, and they have a huge collection. Mine's nice. Mine's the average. Mine's the national average. But yeah, I've yet to encounter a book on there that I can't get with a credit that I've purchased. But yeah, I highly recommend Libby. And then we just started like diving into fucking everything. And then we had like notes that we were taking, like I was like the perfect student to no one.
Right.
Like
literally, it's
my high school teacher would be so mad.
I know. Well, I think that speaks volumes though to actually what we were talking about at the beginning is just like perspective, and how when you're younger you don't really understand like what learning means. Like I feel like for several reasons that happens. One, your logic center is shut off. Like, you do not have access to logic.
Yeah, it is a skill. So that's one thing. And I think the way we teach kids is we teach them like adults, like, because we're and granted, not like, how am I trying to say this? Because teaching is a skill, but I feel like when we're teaching kids, it's hard to remember what it was like as a kid. Right. To put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah, because like even an experienced teacher, in my experience, still teaches from their knowledge base.
Yeah, from their perspective.
Right. Not from like, and again, this isn't everyone, this isn't a blanket statement, but not from like a, hey, you have zero knowledge of this, so that's how I'm gonna teach you how I learned, would be a better way to, in my experience of being taught things.
Yeah. Well,
most teachers aren't teaching from like a place of ignorance.
Right. Yeah. And
which is hard. It's not a knock on anybody at all, because like,
no,
when you gain knowledge on something, you're gonna share the knowledge based on how you have it, not how you got it, which is weird. But
I totally agree. And I think also, like, from what I've witnessed, from what I remember, like, and also because now Rachel's a teacher, and so I have like her perspective to go off of, like, a lot of good teachers are handcuffed by curriculum. Like, you get told the lesson plan, like, this is, sometimes you don't get a lesson plan, but at the end of the day you have like
criteria you have to meet.
Yeah. And it's time sensitive. Like, this kid needs to learn these things by this day.
Yeah.
And not only this kid, but the whole class.
Yeah.
And like, funny enough, I was sitting down talking to her one day, and we were like diving down this huge rabbit hole of if we could design the perfect education system, what would it look like? And
That's a good question.
my whole stance was you would have no time sensitivity on anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Students would graduate when they know everything that they need to know in order to graduate.
Yeah.
And because I remember
and there would be no stigma against that.
Correct.
Either.
Correct. Yeah. And my whole thing was in my opinion, the best way would be also if you had teachers who were like jack of all trades when it comes to teaching different subjects.
Yeah.
And they would stick with those kids almost all the way through.
Yeah.
So it's like you learn their teaching styles. You learn how the teacher learns how the student. The teacher understands how the student learns.
Yeah.
And the teacher understands the student understands how the teacher teaches.
Yeah.
And that compatibility is like super crucial.
Yeah.
Because you could, like, especially with things like math,
yes,
where
100%.
you can't move forward in math if you don't perfectly understand the previous lesson.
Absolutely.
And so if you have one completely different teaching style for algebra and another completely different style for geometry, and those need to be understood in order to get in a trig, if one teacher sucked, or should I say doesn't have the teaching style that's compatible with you as a student, then you're left in the dust.
Yeah.
And then when you hit trig, you're completely disengaged.
Absolutely.
Because you don't understand anything. And so, yeah, I think, like, if there was, like, you know, we're just playing Utopia right now,
right.
and designing whatever format we want. I would have loved to just learn at the rate that I was allowed to.
Yeah.
And then when I was done with whatever I needed to be done with, then keep going.
Yeah.
Because I like, and this isn't like to toot my own horn or anything, in like, here I go. I'm about to brag about second grade. In second grade, I remember I had a really good teacher.
Yeah.
And she immediately recognized that I was bored in class because she would explain a concept. I understood it and then was like, cool, what's next?
Yeah.
But the curriculum was like, you need to then give them like 30 problems on a worksheet.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I don't need that.
I don't care.
Yeah.
And I also think my parents were having me do like little like interactive like learning games at home on the side. So it was also kind of a little bit of review for me. And so she literally was like, okay, when I teach math, you're going to go to this teacher's class. And it was like some 4th grade class.
Oh,
She's
wow.
like, you're going to go learn their math.
Yeah.
And she like let me leave the class and go with another teacher for different curriculum.
Yeah.
And it was
that
awesome.
kind of flexibility would be great. Just as like a start.
Yeah.
You know, to like, hey, this kid doesn't need what I'm teaching.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they are beyond it.
Yeah.
Like,
and I like if I was given the ability to just pursue knowledge at the rate that I was comfortable with, and that I enjoyed, I would have been able to graduate high school like way earlier than I did, because like that was like a huge issue for me in a lot of classes was I was so bored.
Yeah.
Like, because at the end of the day, like a lot of classes were as fast as the slowest student.
Yes.
And they would be holding back like the rest of the class. And that's like, you know, unfortunate, but it's just
the
life.
Nature of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the time we moved on to the next lesson, I had been not paying attention for 20 minutes. And so I didn't even notice that we moved on to the next lesson. And then I come back and I'm lost.
Yeah.
And it was completely disengaging. And that's like, you know, they try to do like advanced classes or whatnot, but it's just, you know, not the ideal format.
But and they're still bound by those same rules as well.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, so it's like
then I might be the slow kid and I'm doing calculus when I maybe should have had a little more time in pre-calc.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. No, and that's a great point, because like I had that, because I hated math growing up. Like I thought I did, but I just didn't understand it. I was not being taught it very well. And then like I remember I got into like algebra 2 or something like that, and it weirdly like clicked for me.
That's so funny.
It was very bizarre, because like I had Taylor helping me a lot with like a previous math class, because I was bad. Like I just couldn't figure things out. And then like I got into algebra 2, and like she would still help me kind of, but then we eventually got to the point where she's like, I don't know what you're doing, but looks like you're doing a good job, so just keep it up.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know why. I don't know what was special about that, or maybe it was the teacher and how he laid things out for me, like you said, like,
Mhm.
you know, his teaching style matched my learning style.
Yeah.
But it really is important to like, it should be about, I know it's hard, especially in a free public school system,
Right.
when you only have so much fun and so many times and so much staff
Yeah.
to like make it happen. But that's where I think you should like it should be evaluated. Like you should be looking at stuff like that. Hey, cool. All right. So how can we make that better though?
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah. Like
you should be reevaluating that yearly.
Mhm.
Like,
I know. And I know like everything government related is funding. Like everything comes down to funding and also the efficiency of the system using the funds that it has. Like they're definitely wasteful, bloated systems that
and just red tape through the fucking wazoo.
Yeah. It's why, like, you know, as taboo of an opinion as it may be nowadays, and I don't think this applies universally to all areas, but like it's why privatization of most things tends to get way better results way quicker.
Yeah.
Like, you know, as soon as we privatized like putting things into orbit, we got SpaceX,
Right.
and now we can put them in the orbit at like 1,000th of the cost that the government was doing it. And that's not to say that I think that we should like then privatize education or that like healthcare should be privatized or whatever, because obviously you got to look at incentive structures. But I just like it, you know, the cold-hearted classic libertarian in me just like hates government intervention on systems when I'm like it could be so much better, and that's a whole different topic.
We can
don't
go
really
off on that for
don't really
hours.
feel like diving into. But one thing that I have noticed, and I actually tested out the other day, was I was on the topic of math with Rachel, and I was talking about how the same idea that like math it builds upon itself, and if you are missing one lesson, then you cannot continue to build, and it makes sense. You're gonna everything's gonna topple.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I talked about how I wished that I had my current mindset, because 14-year-old me couldn't do this, what I'm about to say.
Absolutely.
But I wish I had my current mindset, and I was back in high school, and I had ChatGPT. Because ChatGPT is the infinitely patient tutor that you can say I don't understand to 25 times in a row, and it doesn't chuck a chair across the room because why the fuck don't you understand? And so I sat down like last week, and I was like, you know what I was like, I know the next math course after calculus, which was the last thing that I took when I was fucking a junior, was linear algebra, but I couldn't take linear algebra because it wasn't what high school teacher is going to go teach past calculus, you know? And so I was like, I'm going to have ChatGPT teach me linear algebra. So I sat down while she was making breakfast with a notepad and pen, and I was like, hey, Chat, like, I want to learn linear algebra. You know, teach it to me nice and slow. Go easy. I'm a virgin.
I'm a virgin.
And I was over there like solving matrices like while she was doing making breakfast, and I was like, holy shit, like this is fun. Like this is cool. Like awesome, I'm enjoying myself. And like I know I got some of the homies just like rolling their eyes like this guy's such a fucking nerd. Like your girlfriend's making breakfast and you're playing with math. Like, But that's the whole like
that's such a good idea. Ooh, I might try that.
It's fucking incredible.
That's so good.
Like the AI we have now, it's not perfect. I think it's like 80% of the way there, but it is good enough, in my opinion, to teach you anything. Like you literally could get the knowledge equivalents of an engineering degree, if you just were patient and knew the right questions to ask, and just sat down with it, and it'll like, and it has a voice mode, so if you want to like sit and talk back and forth, and I would like solve a problem, and there'd be a part I'd be kind of questionable on or stuck on, and I'd put a little asterisk and I'd write a question, and then I would give it my results and be like, hey, this is the answer I got, am I correct? Because I made sure to tell it, don't give me the answer, like, give me the problem, teach me the lesson, and then don't give me the answer, and I'm gonna solve it. And it was like, all right, dude, I
love that.
And then I had a question. I was like, hey, like, you know, when I'm solving matrices and I'm trying to get zeros, like, can I apply the first row to the third row, or should it always be the second row to the third row? And it was like, you can do that, but the second row to the third row is easier. This is why. And I was like, cool. Like, holy shit. Like, I have a personal teacher for fucking anything. Yeah. And
that's so good.
And if I had ChatGPT in high school, I would have just cheated on everything. But if current me, who has more of an appreciation for learning and can kind of see past the whole, when the fuck am I ever going to use the difference between ionic bonds and covalent bonds in the real world? Like, you're not. But it makes the world make a little more sense, and that stresses you out less.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
So maybe you should consider, you know, approaching learning with a different mindset on things.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's so good, dude. I really like that. I want to just touch on you made a point, like if you know how to ask the right questions to the AI. That's the thing, though. I feel like if you just start it, you probably could find the right questions to ask.
Yeah, you can ask it what the right questions are.
Yeah. You could just like, hey, I want to learn about this thing. Where would I start?
Yes.
Like what like baseline, no knowledge, where would I start?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you could literally probably prompt it and say, I would like to have the same knowledge as someone with a mechanical engineering degree.
Yeah.
What are the courses that the top schools teach on it? Like what credits are necessary or whatever, or link me to the page that has those credits. And then you write down all of the courses and then you go, okay, I want you to teach me this course.
Yeah.
And it's trained on the data.
Yeah.
So it has it.
Right.
And you just go through the curriculum like one at a time. And you're going to be some freak in your garage making some fucking crazy inventions.
Hell yeah, dude. That sounds fucking awesome, though.
Yeah. But like literally it is the perfect tutor.
Yeah.
And the voice mode is like continuously getting more and more realistic.
Yeah.
And conversational.
Oh, that's
and so like you could literally like sit it down. Like, you have your kiddo, you're eventually going to have to start helping him with schoolwork.
Yeah.
You would be able to set him down like with ChatGPT and just go, all right, like this is your tutor. If you have any questions, ask. And if you get stuck and chat can't help you, like come get me.
Yeah.
But like the kid could work through
like all these problems with just
with a personal tutor that like talks back and forth and like understands where you're coming from and knows that it's talking to a fucking like 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Like it's
exciting is what it is. It slightly terrifying.
Yes, of course, as all new things are.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just like, I think that we have a little bit of a crises. I think particularly America has a bit of an identity crisis with being smart.
Yeah.
I think that people think being smart is the same thing as being intelligent. And I think that the difference between those is people, when someone sees someone and they go, oh, you're really smart, they're really saying you're knowledgeable.
Correct.
Like you have absorbed a lot of accurate data about the world around you or about certain topics, and you're able to convey that data in a sensible and digestible way, and so you are smart.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between that and having like good spatial IQ and can tell how shapes fit together. Like, and so most people think that like that IQ means knowledgeable, and that knowledgeable is directed like correlated with genetics, and so you can't change it. And in reality, like I think so most people take pride in the fact that they're not smart as like a coping mechanism for the fact that they got like at some point they no longer identified with being someone who loved learning. Yeah. And so they kind of got lost along the way, and now they're like, oh yeah, no, I hated school, I hate math, like I hate learning, like, or not hate learning, they won't say they hate learning, but they'll be like, I'm not smart.
Yes.
And it's like you're just not knowledgeable right now.
Yeah.
And if you took a different approach on learning, you would be considered in your own eyes as smart.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and as someone who struggled for a long time, and having a kid has helped with that, and I'll get into that in a second, but with like, it kind of goes down to like actually caring about yourself too. Yeah. Because like when you care about yourself and like wanting to like gain knowledge to just like make your life better, because that's what it is. All knowledge intake is like, it's gonna, one way or another, if it just like you said, understanding things to make you less stressed out, or
right,
figuring something out to like help you move on in life to like do different or better things. Like it comes down to caring about yourself. It really does. Like if you don't, God, that's a whole other topic too. But
right.
But if you don't care about yourself, you're not going to like go seek knowledge. To better yourself. You really aren't. And like, you could argue that day and night, but the fact is like gaining knowledge on things is caring about yourself. And like, I struggled with that for a long time. I held pride in the fact, I didn't do good in school. I'm not smart. It is what it is. Like I've got other things about me
that I find value in.
Yeah. And it wasn't until that I started gaining knowledge that I was like, oh, no, I like didn't have.
I was just scared.
Yeah, literally. No, 100%. It really was terror, because like terror and like shame.
Yeah.
Shame is a big one, dude. Because like when I was really young and like in my teen years, like I was really embarrassed about like the things I didn't know.
Yeah.
And like I didn't want people to know I didn't know them, so I was just like, yeah, whatever. I don't care that I don't know them.
Right. I'm cool and apathetic.
Whatever. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But as I got older and like gained a little perspective and you know, you start to meet people and you just like things happen where you're like, you can go one of two ways. You can either dig deeper into that and be like, yep, that's who I am. I don't need to know things because I don't care. I have life to live. That is life.
Right.
Like,
right.
Like knowledge intake is always going to happen, good or bad.
Yes.
Yes. And when you go out to positively seek it and like to better yourself and care about yourself, it's going to make your life better. 100%.
Yeah.
Like it will. Inadvertently, whether that's like your goal or not, like if you're out there positively intaking information, your life will start to get better.
Yeah. And I think like one thing that I think goes so unnoticed is you have to have the right like mental tools to properly intake information in a positive manner.
Yeah,
because like I had a huge like chunk of my life, like when I was like 19, 20, where I was obsessed with philosophy. Like I was so bummed at the time because I was going to college in Santa Clarita, and I was so bummed at the time that learning that philosophy majors are broke. Like I would have loved to have majored in it and got some sweet gig and just talked about thinking all the time, as if that's like some direct contributor to society.
Yeah.
And but I that like phase of my life was like super useful because I became obsessed with like logic at its core principle, like what it means to string together proper logic and make a point, like deductive reasoning, inductive reasoning, fallacies, all of these things.
Right.
Because it helped me acquire the tools necessary to be able to identify like accurate information and to be able to like separate myself and my identity and my pride from knowledgeability and intelligence and all of those things. And I think like a lot of people don't even know that those mechanics are happening underneath it all.
I agree.
And then are victim to their own ignorance. Yeah. And then when they get provided with accurate information, they either like brush it off or are just as confused because all information sounds equally as accurate.
Right. Did you make a point like on your, was it your confidence episode or your, because you make that distinction of like something that sounds that's like true or that's has the oh God, what, how did you put it?
So I think it was the like first full length episode I did, and I really personally care a lot about whether something like makes sense versus it's being true.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
And like just because something makes sense doesn't mean it's true. Yeah. And like this is perfectly correlated to this topic, because if you don't have those tools to be able to differentiate between the two, you will be victim to everything just making sense.
Yes. Yeah. And because a lot of things can make sense.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like there's I think we've probably talked about it, but there's like the whole argument. It's basically it's proving the point of infallibility. Mm-hmm. So like there are points that no one can prove right or wrong.
Oh, right.
And
right,
it's God, I forget the guy's name, but it's someone's teapot. And it's this idea that there's a microscopic teapot floating in perfect opposite orbit of the Earth at all times. And there's no way we would be able to observe it with any telescope or anything because it's always on the opposite side of the sun. Yeah. And I think this argument probably was made before the space technology has gotten to where it's at now.
100%, yeah.
But it was this whole idea that like, you can't prove this right. Yeah. You can't prove this wrong, but yet it makes sense. What do you do with it? Right. And the correct stance is you do nothing with it. You don't take a stance. Yeah. You have to not take a stance. Yeah. As soon as you take a stance, the burden of proof is on you.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah. And so like, I think, I don't know. I think it's super, super useful to take a good, nice dive into philosophy. Yeah. I think it's like I think it's the bedrock of like all knowledge that we acquire. Like even like spiritual and like religiosity.
Yeah.
Like you need to know what your philosophy is.
Yeah.
For that to even like feel like it aligns with your identity.
Yeah, to even like have an actual start on anything is just like, I agree. I do. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So with my stance on philosophy and then you talking about like identity with learning.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to word this. How do you feel like you have developed as a person, considering like you've, for the like pure recreational fun of it, pursued not only just like knowledge at like a broad sense, but like a lot of like random, very specific, like advanced like levels of curriculum, essentially. And you're like, outside of that, like it doesn't pertain to your work, your identity, your personal life. But I think it like, I don't know, I think it affects the mindset. And so like, what's your perspective like? Cause like you've gone from the person who is like, you know, anti-learning, or like, you know, I identify as someone who doesn't identify as intelligent, or however that game goes. And then we had like our kind of like little renaissance where we were like, dude, we should just be smart. We should just decide. We should just go learn shit. Yeah. We should just go learn shit. Yeah. And like, how do you feel like that changes what it's like to like look through Sean's eyes at the world on a day-to-day basis?
That's a really good question. I like that. That's a good question. It has made me like myself. Mm-hmm. And made me want to like myself, which is something that's kind of a weird thing to look at.
I think it makes sense.
But yeah, I was like, for a long time, like when I was really young, I was like, oh, I'm not interesting. Oh, I'm dumb. And which like made me angry, I guess. I don't know. That's actually an interesting revelation right there. That's probably why I was so mad as a teenager.
Right.
Because I just like, I was uncertain of things, and it's calmed me a lot. Like what's the right way to put this? Like, it's not that I don't care about things, but it's like if something happens, I'm like, we'll get through it. We'll figure out. We'll go.
Less moved.
Yeah. It's like, I'm okay not knowing the outcome of things. I'm okay. Like,
because it doesn't reflect upon your identity anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you've detached. It seems like you've detached like knowledgeability and intelligence from identity, so that when something challenges that, aka you don't know something, it doesn't mean it's challenging your value, or your existence as a being, or whatever. That's a good way to put it. And it just it's definitely increased confidence, and just wanting to go out and learn more. Right. Like, it's such a little addicting. It is. It's such a funny little paradox. Like, you know, you learn something, you find that thing interesting, and you're like, that inevitably will spawn more interest.
Your interest to go find out something else.
Yeah, it's self-reinforcing.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And it just makes life more fun, because there's so much in everything, dude.
Yeah.
History, math, science, arts, there's so much knowledge to be had. You can spend your whole life learning.
Yeah.
And it'll make it more interesting.
100%. And the huge bonus is like the amount of people that you can now connect with. Because you have a shared knowledge base. Like, if you don't dive into history or art, there may be people you'd never bond with, because that would have been the connector.
Yeah. No, that's a really good. And actually, I didn't really think about that before, but like, I've always liked people and like getting to know people, but I was always when I was really young, I was very shy, and like, I did not enjoy like those first few interactions with people, because I was like, oh man, I don't like what do I do with my hands? Yeah. I think that is the name of this podcast. What do I do with my hands?
What do I do with my hands?
No, that's a great way to put it. Yeah, I'm not worried about like. Well, yeah, it goes back to just like not being worried. Like, I think that, like, when I was young, I was nervous about meeting people and, like, talking to people and, like, being in a room alone with somebody. But, like, now I love it, dude. Like, I'll fuck it. Well, put me in a room with literally anybody. And at some point, we'll come across something that we can talk about.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
And I think it's actually made me want to learn from people more. If that makes sense. Like, I love just letting someone go off about something, whether it be personal, a belief, or like something they like or learned, or like hobby. Whatever. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do, and is just like kind of sit there and listen to somebody. Like, just let them talk.
Yeah, let them rip.
Just go to town. I don't know.
You have to. Funny enough, you have to have the right relationship with learning, because you have to be the person most of the time. I mean, there are people who are just yappers at heart, and they're just going to talk to your face no matter what.
Absolutely,
give them the opportunity.
Yeah.
But you also have to, if they're not like that, know how to set the table correctly so that they feel comfortable enough talking to you about the things that they're super knowledgeable on. Because, like, Dylan is super knowledgeable on Pokemon. Yeah. But if he doesn't feel like you give a fuck about listening about Pokemon, right, he's not gonna pop off.
Yeah, he's not gonna give you that energy. Yeah.
Yeah, the energy that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And like it's super random, but like some of the most like knowledgeable people I've ever met and ever talked to are crane operators. They are cool. They are geniuses. Yeah. Like, if you've ever sat down with someone or worked alongside someone who is like federally licensed to operate a crane, right? They are fucking so smart. And you never know, because like every other conversation, they're just like typical blue collar guy, like, I like football and beer and whatever meme is on Facebook, and and like they just, socially they're just a typical dude. And then you set the table, let them speak about something they're passionate about or knowledgeable about, and show real genuine interest, right? And you're suddenly talking to the smartest person in the room. And
that's that's so cool.
And it's like, I don't know, it for me personally, I think if like you're listening to this and you're super knowledgeable about something that you're passionate about, that shows that you have the capacity to be knowledgeable about anything.
100%.
Like calculus, microbiology, AI, like anything. It's the same exact thing. There is a starting point, and there's a bunch of other checkpoints, and as long as you check all of them, you are going to be equally as intelligent. And society just tends to value different ones higher. Like, no one cares if you're knowledgeable in Yu-Gi-Oh, but like people do care if you're knowledgeable in like history, because that'll give you like, talking points at a dinner party or something. God, I remember we almost had our little history project. We almost.
Caleb, we're gonna come back to that one day, because I want it, dude. It still sounds like I had the few times that we actually got to sit down and like dig into stuff. Oh my God!
You care to explain to?
So Caleb and I got the hair up our heinies to make a scroll. Is what I'm going to call it, because that's what it would be.
Right.
A physical timeline of all like the biggest societies, events, whatever in history, and literally put them down on a
super long,
super
rolled up piece of paper.
Just a scroll. God, what was that in like 2020? 2019?
Yeah, I think it was like that. 20.
I think it was 2020. It feels like a 2020 thing to happen.
Yeah. It was very much so a 2020-esque project.
But yeah, dude, we probably only had like 3 or 4 like actual like good sit downs, maybe 5.
We didn't get to like we were incapable of like making the time properly in order to do it.
Yeah.
But the times, and also we could not stay on track.
Oh my God, no. we would start at where we were like, hey, this is the start,
and then start on Mesopotamia,
and
like,
then we would be in fucking who knows Poland at one
point.
Yeah,
like, oh my God,
just reading about the Polish. Oh God, what were their names?
Yeah, the Polish soldiers with like the cool wings, and they ride horseback.
Armor was so dope.
Yeah, see, exactly. Like that was a very key moment, and that's so far from ziggurats.
Ziggurats. Oh Jesus.
Yeah, and God, I remember when we were kind of diving into that, and I learned that you know how like there's always in history the fall of Rome,
Yeah.
and how Rome fell, but it wasn't.
Dude.
It was only half of Rome.
Yes.
And the other half got called the Byzantine Empire.
Yeah.
And continued on for hundreds of years.
And literally into the was 18 or 1900.
It was. I
want to say it was like the 1800s.
Yeah.
Like
well,
it was.
It essentially just kind of got.
It just
muddied.
Yeah.
In the same way that most civilizations do.
Yeah, literally.
When did the Byzantine Empire fall?
It was an insanely long time.
1453. So yeah, it was. It fell in 1453
okay.
when the Ottoman Turks conquered the capital city of Constantinople.
Which is still because Rome fell in like fucking 900 or something or 600.
When did Rome fall? And the thing that blew my mind, 476.
There you
AD.
go. There you go.
Yeah.
So
it was around for another 1,000 years. And the thing that blew my mind was when I was watching a video on it, and the person was like, if you went back in time to the Byzantine Empire and you asked people, well, where am I at? They would tell you that you were in Rome.
Yes.
And that was because they didn't call themselves the Byzantines. The Byzantine Empire got that name like retroactively.
Right.
Because historians wanted to label it as something differently other than Rome because of the fall of Western Rome, I believe, because the Byzantine Empire was Eastern Rome, I think.
That sounds right. I'll buy that for $1.
I'll buy that for $1. I love that. So like Western Rome fell, Eastern Rome stayed. It became the Byzantine Empire, but the problem was that the leader at the time converted to Christianity, and so that was like enough for historians to think like, okay, this should be a different thing.
Yeah.
But if you went back in time and you went there, like the currency was Roman, the like the manholes in the ground were Roman, like you'd be like, yeah, we're in Rome.
Yeah,
like,
we're in Rome right now.
We're Romans.
Yeah.
And so like to think like, oh no, Rome actually fell
technically
in 1453, like right before Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Right.
And so it's just totally mind-boggling stuff. And,
it is. See, I think that was our problem with it, is like when you start digging into history, you are inevitably going to fall into rabbit holes where you're like, wait, that's when that happened?
Yeah.
Whoa, hold on a second. Like there's so much stuff that happens where you're just like, God, that was only 200 years ago. That was only in the like 1850s, or like that was only in 1453. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I know. And that was also our other like challenge, I'll call it, was because this scroll, we wanted it to be to scale.
Yes.
And so if we wanted to start with like God, what was like the first, like the oldest current civilization that we were aware of? I'm trying to remember.
Samaria?
No, it's older than that. There was a dude who like has this crazy ass theory on there being a actual flood, like a biblical level flood.
Yeah.
And he was on Joe Rogan, and he was talking about how like the discovery of this super ancient civilization was like proof that the flood was real.
Oh, really? I haven't heard that.
God, it's older than Mesopotamia, and it's, in terms of history, a like, I don't know, more recent discovery.
Yeah.
God, I cannot remember. I know like Sumer and all of that is recognized currently as like the most like solid documented oldest civilization. Yeah, I remember like us diving into that and then going like, oh, maybe we should read the Tale of Gilgamesh, like knowing that like, this eventually splits off into Babylon,
right,
all of this stuff, and the idea that we were going to somehow get up to modern day, as if written history doesn't become even further condensed, and like harder to get through because everything starts becoming written history.
Yeah,
like Sumer was important because their shit was written and in stone. Like there were civilizations prior that probably didn't last the test of time.
Yeah, exactly.
And we have no.
And they used too much wood.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, writing everything on papyrus instead of carving it into clay.
Right.
But
no, we definitely had some challenges with that.
Yeah, maybe one day when we're old and gray and have too much free time.
There you go. Yeah, that's a retired
a retired hobby. Yeah. So with all this, I think I'm going to call this episode learning. I think that's probably going to be what the title is. But with, I think a perfect transition now is like, you have a kid.
I do have a kid.
You now have this like stance on what it means to learn and to acquire knowledge and how that correlates to you as a person, your value, worth, your identity, all that stuff. Have you thought about how you're going to apply this moving forward? Because he's like in sponge mode.
He is. So I think about it almost every day. The actual application is a lot more difficult.
What? Practice is harder than theory?
Crazy, I know. First one to discover that, by the way. No one else knows that. You're hearing it here first.
Christopher Columbus' parenting.
That's right. No, I do. I think about it every day, and there are so many aspects to it, literally down to just like not even just like knowledge intake, but like food intake, like your like self-worth feeling as a parent, and like how that will affect your kid, how it affected me from my parents. Like there's so many things when it comes to knowledge intake, being a parent, that I'm like trying to, like change, and like trying to like actively think about.
Be more mindful.
Yeah. Because God, they take in everything, man. It is insane how much of yourself comes from your parents. And I know that's, dude, no shit.
Yeah, but
it's a given. But it's
different when it's in front of you.
It really is, because it's things that you didn't think you would need to think about. Like I just, for example, I am not like, I don't care about my birthday. Like I don't really, if it's celebrated or not, or if I get gifts. Yeah, exactly. I was like,
when we would work together, we'd have to. It was pulling teeth.
Yeah. And like I sat and thought with myself for a minute about that. And I was like, dude, I don't want Dean
to not care about his birthday.
Right. Like your birthday is important. It is. Right. Like it is a important miles, whatever. I don't know, however you want to, thing that happens yearly.
Yeah. Checkpoint
of your life. Yeah. However you want to, and you don't have to go all out. You don't have to like do crazy things or like have wild party or whatever. Yeah. It doesn't have to be this huge thing. But like, I want him to care about his birthday.
Right.
I really do.
Yeah.
And like, that means I have to care about my birthday.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. Man, I really like it. And like that kind of spawned other things of just like, if I want him to not feel how like things that I felt, or like do things that I did, like I have to change these things. Like I have to do these things. 'Cause like, every day he's going to look at me. He's going to see the things I'm doing, see the things I'm saying, watch the things I'm eating, watch the things I'm drinking, like want to do
He's going to emulate you.
Yes.
Daily.
He already does.
Yeah.
Literally, God, what was I? We were in the pool and like I was like spitting water out of my mouth and he was like, copying you, Dad.
I'm letting you know.
I was like, whoa, dude. It's crazy. So like when it comes to just like his knowledge intake, man, like I don't even know how to properly put it into words right now, but like I don't want him to ever hate learning like I did. Right. So like, I think about how I was taught things because I was homeschooled. And so like my mom and dad were the ones who were teaching me things.
Right.
And the thing that I didn't get when I was young was patience. Because like I struggled a lot with just about every topic: reading, writing, math, history, everything. Struggled with it. And they had 3 other kids on top of me. I was the youngest, and they did that for all of us. So like I don't blame them for how they taught me, but they were quick to the point. Like, hey, get this done. Right. This is how you do it. Learn it. Remember how I just told you how to do it.
Yeah, like sink or swim.
Yeah. Like, let's get this done. Like, we have things to do. Like, we're not going to sit here for 4 hours to teach you this thing. Like, you need to learn it now.
Yeah.
And that I didn't.
And I said no.
Yeah. And that, so like, I think the biggest thing. Right. Yeah. And so I think that's one of the biggest things that I want to be for Dean, as far as like, when it comes to him learning things, is just being patient with him and like allowing him, kind of going back to when we were talking about like schools and like his learning pace, like not be this hypercritical, like, if he wants to learn faster or not once, but it's usually not a want.
Right. If he does.
Yeah, it's usually not a want. It's just like your learning abilities as a person. Like I really just want to be patient with him on everything. Because man, I tell you what, that's the difference between like wanting to learn something and not wanting to learn something. For me, is when someone's like, "You should know this, get it done," or like, "Hey, where are you at? Like, what's the spot?
Are you stuck on anything?"
Yeah.
And I think like I like to speak about detaching identity as best you can and all that stuff. But in reality, when I think back on school, like identity is a self-reinforcing thing.
Yeah.
And so like I saw myself as someone who was an advanced learner.
Right.
I saw someone as someone who was smart. When I took a test that would check where I was at in the group, I was expecting myself to be at least past proficient, if not in advanced.
Right.
And that I know now, retroactively looking back, that was like reinforcing my attitude when it was coming to how I would approach learning a new topic.
Okay. Yeah.
Like if something was confusing, it was a challenge. If something was if something clicked, I kept that momentum going because that's how it should be.
Yeah.
And I think if you automatically go into something with your mindset a lot of times comes from your identity.
Yeah.
So if you don't identify as someone who is smart, then you won't act like it.
Yeah.
Even if your actual mental capacity says that you are smart.
Right.
You wouldn't know if you're inhibiting.
Yeah. 100%.
And I've learned through people much smarter than me that stuff like that is best propelled by positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Like I felt like a smart kid because people told me that I was a smart kid. And when I messed up, it was approached like just a minor fluke.
Yeah.
Not a what the fuck is wrong with you?
Right.
Why haven't you figured this out yet? Like everyone else could do this. So many other kids have passed this point. And those comments and those attitudes, especially from adults, form how you view yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Because like he's too young right now to have like the concept of self-identity.
Yeah.
But he will.
Yeah.
And then he will look back and go, oh, this is what people have said about me to me.
Yeah.
This must be
who I am.
Who me is.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think like positive reinforcement is huge on that because like he's forming the memories that will form his identity.
Yeah.
Once he realizes he has one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which we were kind of talking about before we hopped on mic, that concept of like being someone's nostalgia or like his like his childhood.
Yeah.
You know, that's a trip too, just to kind of go off on a little tangent of like being a parent. Like looking at the things that we're doing now with him, like it makes me think about when I was young and just like my parents' life before me. It kind of makes you get a little existential. You're just like, oh my God, like life has been happening.
Yeah.
Well before I existed.
Yeah.
And will continue to happen well after I'm gone.
For a second, I almost thought I wasn't the main character.
It's such a trip, man. Just like your perception of time as a parent and like being being a human.
Yeah.
Is
like
so,
consciousness.
Yeah. It's so weird, dude. But and I get made fun of for this a lot because I bring it up a lot, like because he'll be doing something. I'm just like, dude, this is his childhood that we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna look back on all these pictures and videos that I'm taking of him and like of us, of like just like taking him to do things and just be like, oh, I don't remember going to the Skytram in Palm Springs. When did we do that? Dude,
yeah. My mom always tells me how I went on a cruise with them. And I never remember going on a cruise with them.
Right.
It was we would look at pictures and we would like she was like, oh yeah, like all the employees on the cruise called you Mr. Spoons because you wanted to collect all the spoons on the table.
Spoons,
and like
so
they
good.
didn't get to see their families often, so like they wanted to hold you and wanted to like play and talk because like
so
you
cool.
reminded them of like the kids at home that they had.
Yeah.
And zero recollection, absolutely none. This could be a complete fabricated lie, and I'm
Right,
totally
right.
fucking bought in because I have a picture of me on a cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't really know like what age memories actually start to form.
Yeah,
and it's different for everyone. There are people who swear they remember like everything, and other people were like, "Yeah, I think I remember being 8."
Yeah, dude, that's so funny. That's 100%. I will get into that in just a second.
You're good.
No, just like on the point of like remembering things and or whether or not they're completely fabricated is, I had a pretty significant life event happen when I was 2. I got attacked by a dog. And,
Oh yeah.
And like in my mind, I was maybe 2 months or 2 years and like 3 or 4 months old at that time. And I swear to God, I remember it vivid. Like I have vivid memory of it happening.
Trauma tends to do that.
Yeah. Well, I was like, but I don't know if it's actually memory or if it's what I've been told had happened.
Right. Or like memory of your memory.
Right. It's such a weird thing. And then like, you know, it jumps up to like, I don't know, maybe 6.
Like, yeah, literally.
Like 2 years old. Boom. Got it right there. I could walk you like step by step things that happened before it happened too.
Right.
Which is like a trip to me.
Yeah.
And then like nothing for years.
Yeah. And you know what's so crazy too is like I believe that like the memories in between that are still in there.
Yeah,
like locked away. It's just like maybe your brain hasn't remembered how to fire those neurons anymore.
Yeah.
But like you think that it's completely gone and lost forever, and then like out of nowhere you get like a certain smell or like a one like old song that you just forgot existed. Yeah, and then you're just like possessed with like a memory of when you were 5.
Yeah.
And you were like, dang, that was one of the lost years.
Dude. It's pretty true. Memory is a trippy thing, but like yeah, and so like I don't know, I have this idea one day that I hope to recreate, and I think I might have talked to you about it somewhere in the countless hours that we've had conversations. Yeah, I think I know what you're about to say.
But I want to create like a kind of like a little time capsule of like different purposefully curated like smells and objects for my future kid when they're young. So like I will buy 2 of every candle, or or like buy the same candle like for like 2 years or something like that, or purposefully wear the same cologne or something, and then in that time capsule have that same candle or that same cologne or those same spices that we use when we cooked or something like that. And then like when the kid's like 14 or something, be like, does this remind you of your childhood? And just get this like insane like purposely curated nostalgia blast.
I was like, you're gonna fucking nostalgia bomb them.
100%. I'm turning my future child into the Winter Soldier. Train car, homecoming, 19. Now go pass your math test.
No, I actually really like that idea. I think it's really fun because like there's a lot of like just forethought into the like the raising of your future kid. In something that like seems insignificant, but like can you imagine coming across something in your, you know, parents' things that like you had no recollection of? Literally a candle of something, and it's like this is Christmas, you know, whatever, 1999 or 2004 or whatever, you know. And like it's literally just a candle, but like bam, it just triggers this insane memory for you, like we were just talking about, like it's just a sound or a smell or something like that.
Like a That's So Raven flashback.
Yeah, literally like how cool would that be? And like, you know, I feel like most parents aren't thinking about that, like they're not trying to do something like that, but like how cool would that be to like you like I did that. Like I wanted you to be able to remember these things, and like this would help you do that.
Like, or even like, you know, even if you don't buy 2 of something, but like keeping the thing that you were going to throw away and then just like putting it in the time capsule or the memory box or whatever you want to call it. Like I know for a fact that I had like certain teddy bears that I like was like attached to the hip to for years of my childhood. And if I opened a box and saw that teddy bear, I probably would like my eyes would roll back in my head and I'd be placed in another world for 5 minutes.
Yeah. No, 100%. I had the same thing. It was funny. My My brother tried to do something for me a while back because like I had this teddy bear that I got that night that I was attacked.
Oh, wow.
And like I had that bear for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And then I just like, he's gone. No,
naturally.
Whatever. Yeah. But like he tried to find like a similar one for me, and it like
that's really sweet,
dude. Like legit, like that tripped me out. Like I was like, oh, dude, because I hadn't thought about that in a long time, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, that bear, super clever name, Mr. Red Bowtie Bear.
Mr. Red Bowtie Bear.
Guess what he had on? A red bow tie,
overalls,
green overalls. But yeah, it's crazy, man. There's a lot of stuff like that you don't. It's funny, you don't think about it until you think about it.
Yeah, and I also like I had said earlier, like your son is like talking so much more now than the last time that I saw him, and I've dove into a lot of the like current knowledge base on language acquisition, and so much of it is like, I don't know, the current like I don't want to call it the mainstream thesis or mainstream like opinion on it, because it seems to be like the up and coming one.
Okay.
Is that like the best form of teaching yourself a language is like by like straight immersion. You don't study grammar, you don't study like any of the rules of the language. You just like literally surround yourself with it, and you study vocab so that you can at least remember the words. But because they're like, that's what kids do.
No, that makes total sense. That goes back to like one of the things we were talking about earlier, with just like how things are taught.
Well, yeah, I mean, earlier he was like, and you can go, I can keep talking. But earlier he points at the TV and he's like, Mickey Mouse. And I see him do that, and I'm like, I don't think he had a flashcard for Mickey Mouse. I don't think that he studied how the word toy works when you have T and O and Y combined. For whatever reason, he just heard it enough, and his brain is malleable enough that now he sees a thing, knows the sounds, and then says them. And he can interact with people and bounce these things that he's acquired and absorbed off of other people. And he's able to take that and learn inherently without even doing any actual study. He learns the grammar rules. He learns the flows of sentences. He doesn't need like straight language lessons. Like, sure, if you take English classes at school and you learn to write essays. But you can, like, he will learn how to talk fully, coherently, fluently, without ever getting a fucking flashcard in front of him. And the whole argument is that, like, we can do that too. Flashcards make it happen faster, so you don't want to take like fucking 10 years to learn how to learn language you could learn in like 2.
Maybe less.
Yeah, exactly. But that's like kind of been the whole argument, is like, just drown yourself in hours of media, like movies, and audio podcasts and books, and you just eventually
learn the context.
Start speaking Spanish or whatever.
No, and that makes total sense. It really does, because you laid it all out there. That's how we learn how to talk. Like, you don't send your 2-year-old to speech class. I mean, yes, don't get me wrong. I know some kids go to speech therapy,
but it's the exception of the rule.
Yes, like everybody else in every other language ever, they learn because everybody else is talking around them, and you pick up on it. And and I don't know if I actually made the point that I was going to make, but I'm going to make it again in case I didn't. That goes back to what I was talking about earlier. When you're teaching somebody something, like, you need to teach them as though they know nothing, not from where you're at, which is whatever knowledge base you have.
Right.
You have to.
Being a teacher and calling the thing that's novel to someone else easy. Is only you saying that after it's no longer novel to you. Right,
exactly. But that's funny. Man, I love that.
I don't know. I think that if most people can learn to kind of get the bug that we got
Yeah.
for like knowledge acquisition and just pursue whatever seems interesting. But like, I don't know, don't beat yourself up if you actually literally don't know why the sky's blue, you know?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, you have like those like
Yeah.
like childish questions.
Right.
And like I love the statement of like there's no such thing as a dumb question.
Yeah, absolutely. I was literally just thinking that.
Yeah, because like any question with like good honest intent isn't a dumb question.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just a question.
Yeah.
And like most people couldn't tell you why the sky's blue.
Right.
They just say that's the way it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Because. Yeah, because. But you know, if you break down the like wavelengths of light and which ones get filtered out by the combination of gases in the atmosphere, it's cool.
Yeah,
like
it is.
It's interesting.
It is.
And then you get to be the nerdy dad when the kid goes, "Why is the sky blue?" You get to actually tell him like the real answer, or you just whip ChatGPT out and let him talk to him.
Here, son.
Yeah, and that was one thing that I wanted to applaud you for, was you were talking about how like you are now aware of how aware Dean is of you.
Yeah.
And so now your mindset is, I have to make sure I'm on point.
Yeah.
I have to make sure that I'm like eating the right things, acting the right ways, saying the right things, being mindful of like the way that I come off, my cadence. And the reason like that I wanted to like revisit that briefly and applaud you for it was because most people just take the big hammer of parenthood and say,
because I said so.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Dude.
And
I could fucking rant on that for hours. When I was young, literally one of the biggest things that irked me was when an adult would say, because I said so, or do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
That made no sense to me.
Yeah.
That is something I remember being very young.
Yeah.
Like when I would do something and an adult would say, because I said so, or because I'm an adult, or do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Literally would drive me up the wall.
Well, it like as a kid, you're smart enough to be able to tell when someone's being hypocritical.
Yeah.
And saying "do as I say, not as I do" is basically going like, I know I'm being hypocritical and I'm just pulling the authority card on you. And I understand on like the niche instances.
I was like, there are exceptions.
You're getting a rebellious
to
kid and he's just not fucking listening, and you're going to be like, I'm pulling the parent card.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But like when you don't want to be a better person,
yes,
but you expect your kid to be better than you, and then they question it and you go, because I said so.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't
work.
Yeah, it really doesn't. And you know, it's a process. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I'm far from where I want to be as far as like how I should be for him. But like I am every time I do or say or drink or eat or don't do or whatever, like I'm like, God, he's noticing that.
Look over and just the biggest eyes and open mouth.
Yeah. And just to go back to that point, like that's something I never want to say to him, and I never will, because I said so, or because I'm the adult, or do as I say, not as I do. Like I will never, if I'm doing something and he calls me out on it, like, well, how come you do it? Like, because I'm making a bad decision. That's why. Exactly. Like, you know,
I shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. I'll
try my best to stop, you know?
Yeah. I don't ever want to pull that, like, because it's just so irking as a kid to, like.
Well, kids are smart. They just have explanations.
Oh, they really are. And yeah, that's something I try to do now. And like, even though, you know, he's still very young and his understanding is growing exponentially every day, but it feels like, I don't even have a quantifiable number.
Orders of magnitude.
Literally. It's insane. I don't ever want to like not try to explain something to him.
Right.
You know, because that's what we're here for.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
He's how, like,
this is his first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't know.
Yeah. And like the only way to like keep that like beautiful spark of like honest, innocent learning is to nurture it.
Yeah. And
like he will inevitably hit an age where like he cares about how he comes off and what's cool and all of that stuff. And like it's super important all the years leading up to that to make sure that you take advantage of those like prime honest inquiry years.
Yeah.
Where he's just trying to absorb as much as possible. And like,
Yeah.
why not give him like as much knowledge as he can take? Like,
Yeah, 100%.
you want to fucking know? You want to ask a million questions?
Yeah.
I hope you're ready for a million fucking answers.
Yeah. No, literally. And it's exciting too. Like, don't get me wrong, because I know there's definitely someone who's a parent listening going, oh yeah, it's all exciting.
Yeah.
It's not.
I know it's exhausting.
Yeah, I was like, there are days where I don't want to answer questions.
Of course.
And I don't.
Yeah.
I'm like 100% like, I don't.
Right.
But I try to as best I can. And like, I want to every
Right.
time, you know, like because it is exciting watching him learn, watching him grow and like figure things out. And like, man, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like just seeing the development day to day, because it changes. It does. It really does. Every day there's something a little different happening. Like it's so wild to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Just like and get
Sounds
to be a part
fast.
of. Dude, I never understood this until becoming a parent, because you always hear adults or your parents say like, seems like just yesterday. My God,
it actually
really
was.
does seem like just yesterday that I was holding this little 3-pound nothing human that I had he just like, here he is now. He's now like, I have this responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that was over 3 years ago now.
Right.
That happened. And it also like, I think, like I'm definitely not the first person to come up with this, but like being a parent, the years are short, the days and like weeks are long.
Yeah.
Like
I've heard
you
that.
you can have a day that feels like it's never ending. Like you're never going to get past this, whatever. Sleep problem, potty training, them not eating, so whatever. Just you're exhausted, never feels like it's ever going to end. And then that was 2 years ago, you know?
Right.
Like it is, because his first year, man, I held him every single night. Just about, I'll say 95% of them.
Right.
Because he wouldn't sleep by himself. Would not sleep by himself. You know?
Wow.
Yeah. And you know, like now he wants us to hold his hand while he goes to sleep. But like he'll sleep through the night. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like it's just ever changing and always different, and like there's always something new, and it's all challenges. It's but it is wonderful. I really do. Like being a dad's awesome.
Yeah.
Like definitely not perfect at it. I definitely have a long way to go to be the dad that I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But like I love it.
Yeah.
And it has changed the way I look at life for sure.
Yeah. I know it's like arguably one of the most like transformative
It definitely
experiences.
It should be.
Yeah.
There are some people that it
it's
doesn't,
not.
and it doesn't, and
That's a shame.
to each their own. Yeah, it's a shame for the kid, honestly,
Mhm.
and for yourself. Like you should want to change.
Yeah.
Like you are now responsible for this person's life and how they're going to live their life.
And how they're going to affect everyone else after them.
Everyone that they come in contact with.
Yeah.
You are responsible for that. Whether you like to believe it or not, or like
The court believes it.
Yeah.
Your kid does some shit. Guess who gets in trouble?
Yeah, 100%. And but it's wonderful, dude, to like have, I don't know, like that kind of responsibility is insane.
It is.
But
But somehow millions and billions of people before us have done it.
they've done it. They made it happen. It's cool. I love it though. Like
I think back on the years, and I think about how I feel like the age of like 15 to 19,
yeah.
that age was like the perfect middle point to still be able to understand kids on a personal level
Yeah.
and communicate and operate with the cadence of a adult,
Yeah.
where your brain is developed enough to understand critical thinking concepts and communicate some more advanced knowledge. But being a kid is still so fresh in your brain that like everything they do makes sense.
Yes.
And I feel like as you become an adult and you're like late 20s and early 30s, you lose that personal perspective of what it was like to be a kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think it's super interesting to then be able to like revisit it as a parent and be like, this is how it was. Like, that's why that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because after you're a teenager, you kind of like, it fuzzes out.
It does. No, absolutely. It really does. Especially, if you have a life where that's kind of required. Like, oh yeah, no, you don't get to be a kid anymore. Like, you got to go start doing adult things. Like, you got to start living life right now,
Yeah.
Or if that's your mindset, like maybe you're like, I don't want to be a kid anymore. Like, I want to grow up and like do things. Yeah, you think you don't. You're wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
God. I have such a dichotomy with like how I feel about aging and being a kid. Cause like, would I ever want to go back and be a kid? No. Unless I got to keep me.
Yeah.
As
long as I'm still there.
Yeah. I would never want to just like revert back and like be a kid again.
Yeah.
That sounds exhausting.
Yeah. The frustrations of not being able to control your own life once you hit a certain age are real.
100%. Cause you're just like, what the is going on right now?
Like I'm clearly not stupid.
Yeah.
Like I can make decisions. So you think,
yeah. But I also like, I love getting older, like becoming older and just like, it's just fun, dude.
Yeah.
Like life is changing and like things are happening and like the experiences, I don't know. I love it.
Well, you were talking earlier when we were hanging out, in the kitchen about like just the overall busyness of your current state of life.
Yes.
And I was thinking about
all
that and how, and in the best of ways.
Yeah.
And like it really is like what you're going through right now is just your snowball that is getting bigger, and it couldn't have gotten this big, and you couldn't have had this many things going on and been in these many positions of opportunity if you hadn't had all the youthful years prior to it building up to this point. You couldn't just jump into the world as an 18-year-old and then do all the things you're doing right now.
No, absolutely not. God, no. No, yeah. No. And I actually talk about that a lot because like I think about one of my current pursuits that I am in the middle of doing, and I was talking about it like, oh God, I wish I had done this at 18. And I think back to me at 18 and I'm like, I wouldn't have been able to do this at 18.
Yeah.
Like 100,000%, 100,000%, I would have not gone through with it.
Right. And then you probably would have had a different opinion on it. You probably never would have attempted.
Right. I probably would have had a different opinion on myself.
Yeah.
For like, just like, cause a lot of important factors go into your life. And it's so crazy because you can feel like, oh man, I should have done this sooner. But it's like, maybe you couldn't have done it sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like obviously if you could have, you probably would have. Yeah. But circumstances are what they are. And you made the decision you did based off of the knowledge you had. And that doesn't change.
No. And that's the other thing I think that kind of comes with like gaining more knowledge that I think is so enjoyable is like you kind of just accept what has happened.
Right.
And just move on.
Yeah.
And like, hey, that's what it is. That's how I can kind of adjust going forward on. And if you look at life that way, man, it becomes a lot more fun too.
Yeah. I mean, I think I know I was banging the drum for philosophy earlier, but I also think another topic that arguably I think every single person who ever learned the base knowledge of it would benefit from is like psychology. Yeah. I was able to take like 3 to 4 psychology classes when I was doing a bunch of gen ed for my major in college, and psychology was just kind of like one of the natural interests. So I threw that in whenever I could. It again is something that changed my life. Like forever I look different at myself, at how other people operate. I'm able to like very quickly identify whether or not I want to be friends with someone. Yeah. Because of and they think it's so funny how people think that they hide how they are. Yeah. Like very few people are actually so good at it that you are like shocked. Yes. By when they show their true face. Yeah. Most people think that they're hiding it, and then they start, and then you hear them make 2 jokes. Yeah. Yes. And you're like, I know exactly how you feel about yourself, the world, women, money, like everything. Yeah. And I don't want to hang out with you. and that's like, and that's not like a jab to say like this was a bad person, but like I can immediately tell your maturity level. Yes. I can immediately tell where your emotional intelligence is. I can tell where your perspective on the world is, and success and all of these things. I know that a lot of this is kind of, I'm speaking it in perspective to meeting other men, because I think looking at a woman with the psychology lens is a little different.
It is, for sure.
But like, yeah, like there are a lot of people that I immediately meet and I'm like, you are never going past acquaintance. Like
Right.
this is
Yeah.
where you're going to be in my life. And every time I see you, like, it's all love.
Yeah.
We're going to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like, you are not hiding what you think you are. Like you are not. And if people learned more about psychology, they would learn A, how to better identify others, and B, how to understand what they let everyone know about themselves without realizing it. Because we're all the fucking same. We are all the
Absolutely.
same base
Yeah.
level format,
Yep.
blueprint. We're all the same.
Yep.
Thank God.
Yeah.
So that means you can use the same approach to reading everyone
Yeah.
for the most part, unless you literally meet someone who is like clinically antisocial, psychopathic,
Yeah.
like by definition,
Right.
has zero idea of empathy in their body.
Yeah.
And then you definitely don't hang out with that person.
Run away.
Yeah, literally.
Hey, make sure they don't know your address.
Dude. Yeah, and so it's, I don't know, it's super interesting, and I hope that someone who has listened has a little bit more encouragement or perspective on like attempting to see themselves as a learner,
Yeah.
as someone who doesn't stray away from what they don't know and actually takes it on with a positive mindset of like, I like to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like to take on knowledge. I like to be the kind of person who is knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And it's
Because it
multifaceted.
it really is, and it really is enjoyable. Like when you start to dive into it, and it can start with something that you enjoy.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be something that you think you probably won't enjoy. You probably will once you actually learn about it.
Yeah.
Because most perceptions of certain topics is because you don't know what that thing is.
Yeah. People fear the unknown, like to the core.
Yeah, but like you can start with something that you know, and then it will snowball. When you really start to deep dive into things, you'll snowball. You
Yeah,
really will.
100%. You just need to catch that snag, and then
Yeah.
you can go.
Yeah.
I thought about how like one day I may not be living like so close to where like so close to so many of the things that I do in life. Like I imagine the idea of like having to commute or having a partner in a different city or a relationship somewhere else, or not being close to your parents and having to spend a lot more time driving.
Yeah.
I think about that, and then at first I'm like,
Yeah.
and then I'm like, I could feel like if I had to drive an hour regularly somewhere else, like I went to COC in Santa Clarita and I had to drive an hour, like I could fit so many audiobooks in that time. Like I could learn way more than I do right now, and that like excites me at the thought of it. And I don't know, like I think it's just such a nice like softener to some of the hard parts of life.
Yeah. No, that's a really good way to look at it.
But I think we've covered.
We hit a lot of. This was fun.
Yeah, this was super fun, dude.
This
This was literally why I hit you up, because I'm like, I fucking love talking to Sean. If I didn't think that someone would be listening to this, we could literally sit here till the fucking cows come home.
Absolutely.
Talk for like fucking 6 hours, but
I know it's got to be digestible.
yeah, exactly. And I think we've done that. I think we've done a pretty solid job. Do you want to see if Dean wants any parting words?
Dean, do you want to say something to the mic? You want to come say something?
No, you don't want to say hello?
You want to say hi?
He's a little nervous.
Just come say hi.
Yeah, you want to say hi to the mic? Just say hello.
Just say hi.
There he goes. Now he's changing his tune.
Coming up.
Mute Coco Melon.
Say hi.
What's your name?
Dean.
You're Dean?
Yeah.
Say learning's fun.
Way fun.
There we go. See, from a 3-year-old. So it's got to be true. He doesn't know any better.
We're not the smartest person in the room currently.
Nope.
But I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you
buddy.
spending time. I appreciate you allowing Dean to be your personal jungle gym.
Yep. Every day.
And with that being said,
Thank you, buddy. This was good.
yeah, thank you.
I'm
We'll do it again.
Absolutely.
And
Anytime.
thank you to everyone else listening. This was Unserious University. I can't remember what episode we're on right now. I think 4.
4 sounds good.
God, I have tried to record episode 4
At
many
least
times.
4 times. Hopefully
And then
4's
God smites my computer every time.
hopefully 4's the lucky time.
The fourth time's the charm
Yeah.
on the fourth episode. Let me check. Yep, it is episode 4. So thank you for listening to episode 4. With that being said, we're signing off. Catch you next time. This was Unserious University. Peace.
Bye.